I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations. However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve. Our basic difficulty in dealing with these is that there is no measurement of them that makes it possible for us to put them in any pattern that would be profitable for a deliberate, custom sort of analysis to take the next step. We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion with respect to this remaining percentage, and that is that it does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States. Is that? We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States. We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
Watch me for the signal there, sir. Start.
I'll start when you throw it down.
Wait a minute. Hold it, boys. Everybody ready?
Yeah. Major Keyhole, as author of the book Flying Saucers Are Real, what is your opinion of these new sightings of unidentified objects?
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin. During a 3-year investigation, I found that many pilots have described objects of substance and high speed. One case, pilots reported their plane was buffeted by an object which passed them at 500 miles an hour. Obviously, this was a solid object, and I believe it was from outer space.
The United States Air Force, in discharging its responsibility for the aerospace defense of the nation, is called upon to investigate reports of unidentified flying objects. 2 Air Force officers have over the years been very closely associated with this activity. Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Tacker was formerly the chief spokesman for the Air Force on the matter, and Major Hector Quintanilla is now the chief of Project Blue Book. Major Quintanilla, what are the objectives of Project Blue Book?
The objectives of the program are twofold. They're the same as they have been since 1953 when the regulations were given. First of all, to try to determine if the UFO phenomena presents a threat to the security of the United States. And second, to determine if the UFO phenomena exhibits any technological advances which could be turned into research and development.
What's the record so far?
To date, we have over 10,000 cases at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, of which 646 of these remain unidentified. That's not to say that we could not have identified more cases if we had gotten to the observer quickly and checked the local activity.
The Air Force has been accused from time to time of hiding information about UFO. What do you have to say to that, Colonel Patton?
Well, these charges are absolutely untrue. Actually, the United States Air Force releases statistics on the UFO phenomena through the Department of Defense press desk periodically, and we've always honored accredited media when they want to investigate a given specific sighting.
There's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide at all.
Is there anything in the files, either classified or unclassified, that would indicate that there may be extraterrestrial visitors over here?
First of all, the project is completely unclassified. And there's nothing in the records which would indicate that we have been visited by any advanced civilization.
How does the Air Force look upon people who make reports of UFO? Do they look on them as qualified observers?
Yes, they do look on them as qualified observers. Actually, most people who report a UFO sighting are patriotic citizens who have been mystified by something that they've seen, and through a patriotic sense, report it to the local law enforcement officials or to the United States Air Force Base near them.
What would you consider as a person qualified to interpret what he sees?
Well, I consider astronomers are genuinely expert in their field. First of all, they have a tremendous advantage over the other physical scientists, and that is that they have powerful telescopes and photographic equipment to confirm their interpretation.
Do astronomical laboratories make any contribution to the UFO program?
In a negative way, they do, because I've never received a UFO report from an observatory.
Not a one?
Not a single one.
Well, how about the tracking and detection facilities that the Air Force itself has? How does this fit the program?
Well, actually, to begin with, the United States Air Force is charged by an act of Congress with the air defense of the United States. And the North American Air Defense Command and the Air Defense Command have space tracking facilities which are constantly on the alert 24 hours a day. We're interested in anything that flies in our atmosphere.
Well, how about UFO reports in other countries? How are they handled?
Well, UFOs actually occur worldwide. However, the United States is the only country in the world that places as much emphasis on the phenomenon. Other countries place a burden of proof on the observer and not on their Air Force.
And that would make your job a lot easier if they did that here.
Yes, it would.
Thank you, Colonel Tucker, Major Quintanilla. I would like to close by reading a very brief excerpt from the report of the Air Force's Scientific Advisory Board, which they made recently upon completing a detailed review of the subject of UFO. This is a statement. The committee concluded that in the 19 years since the first UFO was sighted, there has been no evidence that unidentified flying objects are a threat to our national security.
Before Project Blue Book, the United States military was examining the UFO phenomenon. A gentleman named Admiral Byrd was said to have made multiple trips to the poles. Today, it is claimed that perhaps even some of his trips did not happen. Others say nothing was found, but others claim he found quite a bit and was tracking the Germans after World War II. It is interesting to note what a memorial to Admiral Byrd looks like. Take a look. Now, Admiral Byrd also wrote some things that are questionable. I did find something online about an alleged journal entry about him seeing the land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown. It says, just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown. Admiral Richard Byrd, United States Navy, December 24th, 1956. It is allegedly his final diary entry. I am not sure if this is true. I have not yet been able to confirm it. But it is a rather interesting situation if it is true. Now, there's one other gentleman I want to mention, and that is James Forrestal. James Vincent Forrestal was the last cabinet-level United States Secretary of the Navy and the first United States Secretary of Defense. It is interesting to follow this man's career and what happened to him. After the war and all of the things that he did for the United States military, he was committed to a mental institution and given treatment. When it looked like he was improving, he allegedly committed suicide by jumping out the window of the hospital. They considered using electroshock on this man after administering sodium amytal and performing a regimen of insulin sub-shock combined with psychotherapeutic interviews due to depression. And it was cited as operational fatigue during the war. None of this makes sense. He was against Israel, and they say he was going to expose what was going on at the polls. He did write a poem, and the last 4 lines may refer to Operation Mockingbird. It says, quote, "Her loved one's story whispered in her ear, woe, woe will be the cry. No quiet murmur like the tremulous wail on the lone bird, the querulous nightingale." Several assassination theories are currently floating around about this man. But these men came before Project Blue Book. Now let's talk about these government projects to investigate the UFO phenomenon. Project Blue Book was started after World War II in 1952 by the United States government to investigate the UFO phenomenon. It was only one of a series of efforts to investigate UFOs. It ended in December 1969 and completely terminated efforts by January 1970. Thousands of UFO incidents were collected and analyzed, and the conclusion was that there was nothing anomalous about UFOs. A total of about 12,618 UFO reports were collected, and most were attributed to a natural phenomenon such as clouds, stars, swamp gas, or other, and even to conventional aircraft. However, a small percentage, 701, were classified as unidentified. The data and paperwork for the study is now available to the public under the Freedom of Information Act, known as FOIA. Previous to Project Blue Book, the United States Air Force conducted UFO studies starting in 1947 under a program called Project Sightings. This project was also inconclusive in its studies, but a rogue U.S. Air Force captain, Edward J. Ruppelt, the first director of Project Blue Book, claimed that initially Project Sign concluded that the UFO phenomenon was real and that some of the incidents were not from American or Soviet origin. This result was sent to the Pentagon, but ordered destroyed by General Hoyt Vandenberg, allegedly, United States Air Force Chief of Staff, who destroyed it, citing lack of physical proof, and ordered the program dismantled. By the end of 1948, Project Grudge succeeded Project Sign. Project Grudge was criticized as more of a debunking organization, although 23% of its incidents remain unexplained. Project Blue Book succeeded Project Grudge. Project Blue Book, as I just said, concluded that UFOs were anomalous, but there is a controversy in how the study was conducted. For example, the Portage County UFO chase involving police officers began at 5 a.m. near Ravenna, Ohio on April 17, 1966. Police officers Dale Spar and Wilbur Neff spotted what they said was a disc-shaped, silvery object with a bright light emanating from its underside at about 1,000 feet in altitude. They followed the object, which went as low as 50 feet at times, and police with multiple jurisdictions became involved in the pursuit. It was chased for 30 minutes and ended 85 miles away near Freedom, Pennsylvania. Project Blue Book concluded that the police had first chased a communications satellite and then the planet Venus. This conclusion was laughable, and the police officers strenuously rejected it. The United States Air Force continues today to track UFOs after Project Blue Book concluded, and in particular those that come near U.S. military facilities with nuclear weapons. What has been concluded today is unknown. Project MUFON is a not-for-profit American-based UFO study group. Currently it boasts of 3,000 members across the country, and it continues to study the UFO phenomenon, and it is outside the government. Magonia is another European independent group that investigates UFO phenomenon as well. There are several other independent UFO study groups around the world, including CSETI and CUFOS. Even the History Channel has a show entitled Ancient Aliens that discusses the UFO phenomenon. But have these groups been able to prove anything or give evidence of anything? It appears not, and perhaps they need to look below their feet rather than up in the sky for answers. Thank you. You may continue to look at my work at my website, hiddenhumanstory.com. You may purchase books online, and I have a movie, Bad Billy Brown. I also have a donate button that is available at the bottom of the homepage of my hiddenhumanstory.com if you would like to help out with my work. Thank you.